Welcome back, everyone, to this is the third episode now of Mostly Car Stuff with me, Garrett Weinzerl, and my cohort here, Mr. Patrick Jester, a.k.a. Octane Pro, as his, if you're watching on the video, his Twitter handle says down below. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. I feel like it's been quite a while since we've actually been able to get to episode 3. It was, we were rolling along good. Episode 1 and 2, 2 weeks apart. And then episode 3 kind of, 4 weeks are we at now, I think?
Well, you have, you have the kryptonite of podcasters, sir. A day job and a kid.
Yes, that's pretty much. You're absolutely true. It is not my full-time profession, unfortunately. That'd be awesome if it was. But yes, I think we made it work tonight. Garrett dropped me a line. He's like, "Hey, you free tonight? We need to record this." I'm like, "Absolutely, let's do it."
Work, if you mean I messaged you like, "Yo, it's happening tonight, or I'm gone for another week and a half."
Yep. As soon as you said that, you're like, "I'm gone next week." I'm like, "Okay, we're doing this because I'm in Vegas for the next 2 weeks after today." So this literally, literally.
Weren't you just in Vegas? Wasn't that where you rented the EcoBoost?
Yep, I'm going back out there.
We're going to see another EcoBoost, or are you going to do?
I don't know yet. It really depends what they have on the lot. We'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, there's like the luxury exotic ones you can rent, and since the company's paying for it, I'm like,
okay. So either way, you work for a car company, so maybe they would understand a little bit until I'm sure they saw the price. But you're just who does that? Who actually does that? Because if the company's paying for it, they're not going to pay for it. Because if you've ever actually looked up the price of these things, they're astronomical, and you're not going to do it for yourself because the prices of those things, as previously stated, are astronomical.
It's so funny though, because last time I went out to Vegas, I was there late. It was like midnight or something like that, and I had to wait in line there. And once I actually got through, they were like, "Hey, sorry about the wait. You can have any car you want that we have on the lot." And I'm like, "What about that one over there?" And it's like the exotic ones, and it has its whole different booth and a whole different guy handling that. And they're like, "Oh no, that's not part of our stuff." They're like, "No." I'm like, all right. Well, I'll go with the Mustang over there because I work for a Mustang company, so that'll work.
Nice.
So that worked out well.
Yeah, the last time I was out in California, a very, very similar thing. The wife and I were supposed to get some I think it was just a RAV4. I think it was what we because it was just the cheapest thing. It was cheaper than like the rusty Focus on the lot, because there's always a rusty Focus every time I rent a car. And of course they didn't have it, and they're like, "Oh, we can give you a pickup truck." I'm like, "Nope, no, you're not. You cannot give me a pickup truck. I'm not lugging around my freaking DSLR and all my camera equipment in the back of a damn pickup truck. You're gonna get." So there's a Corvette up front. I'm like, "Oh, that's fine. That'll work." And they're like, "Nope." They're like, "What about this EcoBoost convertible?" And I was like, "Sure, that sounds lovely." And that's how I drove my first convertible.
Oh, I've actually never driven a convertible before, so
it's okay.
It's okay. It is not what they think it is. Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I'm sure, depending on the convertible, it can be very fun. The EcoBoost, it was just a slower EcoBoost because it's a heavier EcoBoost. But yeah, I still had a good time. That was my first time in one of the new design Mustangs, actually, and it was a premium trim. So Katie and I got in and we're like, "Oh my God, there's butt coolers. There's a button that makes your seats cold."
Well, that was like, so after I had that Mustang, got to the house where I was staying out, got out, and I looked back, and I'm like, there's the word Mustang being projected onto the ground.
Was it the word Mustang, or was it a picture of a damn horse?
Because no, it was the word. It was the word, like, Mustang is what it was, and I was like, that is so cool. I'm like, I've never seen that before. All the Mustangs we have on our property and that we have running around, and I have never seen that. And it's like the little things which are like, oh, that's really sweet. So I was like, all right, I like it.
I've never seen it where it says Mustang. I've only ever seen it where it's the projection of the horse, and that is on the premium trim for the Mustangs.
It's awesome.
Yeah, which means mine does not have it because I have the basest ass GT you can buy.
Base model, the GL version and whatnot. Okay, cool. Well, as much as the show is about Mustangs, what else do we have going on today?
I'm getting it in early, man, because I'm looking at these emails and I'm seeing nothing but Subaru talk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to wait till the end of the show for that. But what's been up with you, man? Have you been doing anything to your WRX?
Sure. So I tried to go to the track several weeks back, and that didn't work out. And that was after my car got completely wrapped up, and I got it dynoed and everything. So like the next logical thing was the track, and that just didn't work out.
First time I'm hearing about this, I didn't know you were planning to go to the track because you.
Oh yes.
Have you ever tracked before?
I have tracked before in previous cars, but not in this current one. And it was it's a quarter-mile track in western Pennsylvania. It's about an hour from me, and it was a Friday. Me and my buddy went up there. He has like a Sonic Turbo, Chevy Sonic Turbo, and so he wanted to run it too. So I was like, sure, why not? So we drove up there the hour after work. Got there, middle of nowhere, like not a gas station in sight, not a restaurant in sight, middle of nowhere, and we drove there for an hour. We pull up to the gate. I call ahead of time, just to let you know, and they go, "Oh, we're sorry, we called it for rain." And I'm like, "Rain?" I'm like, "It is 80 degrees out here, and there isn't a drop of rain." They're like, "Well, it looks like there might be some on the radar later tonight, so we're going to call it." So, yes, ever since that, I have not done anything to the WRX. That was a few weeks ago. The only biggest thing going on with me is I have an oil leak, and it's coming out of my actual oil pan where the drain plug is. I found this when I was changing my oil last time, and it's exactly where it threads in. And sometimes this can occur. I did some reading up on it. You end up either get a new drain plug, but sometimes the threads just aren't tight enough. So you actually have to get a drain plug like a small millimeter larger, and then it threads itself with new threads as you put it in, and it addresses it. So I think I'm going to have to go that route because after a month and a half, I was a quart less. So I ended up having to fill up. I had an extra quart. I use 10W30, so I put that in. But other than that, a new car in the family.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, not my WRX. WRX is there. It's good. Yeah, a few weeks ago, my wife took her car in. We need to get some work done on it. It was sounding a little odd with the suspension, and lo and behold, I had some issues with my axles and the suspension, and to get it repaired, it was well beyond my skill set. It was going to be like $1,500. And normally you'd be like, okay, fine. But keep in mind, her car is a 2007 Hyundai Santa Fe SUV. It has 156,000 miles on it, and it's worth $3,000. So to put $1,500 in it, I was like, and we've been looking over the next like year or two, we were going to replace it. So that was the time. So I sold it, and we ended up buying a 2014 Nissan Pathfinder. So it's seat 7, perfect for a family with 2 kids. It had 20,000 miles on it. I got it for like $19,000. Full-size SUV, black on black, has the works. So yeah. So that's what's new with me.
That sounds very, very useful. I should pick that up to cart around my 2 Chihuahuas.
What about you? What's been new with you? It's been a few weeks. What do you got going on with your car?
So much rain, Patrick. So much rain, and I have not come into multiple thousands of extra dollars, so I have not picked up new wheels and tires, which is just what I keep wanting to go and splurge on for this Mustang. But I made my first mod. I made my first.
Whoa! When you messaged me about this, my mind was blown. I was like, yes, because the thing is, as all car guys know, once you get the mod bug, it's all downhill from there.
Okay, all right. You are setting this up way too much. I spent a whopping $16.
Doesn't matter.
I spent a whopping $16, and I swapped out my clutch spring.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of reading, and I was getting used to the clutch as it was. It was fine. I was getting around town, really no problem. I can't tell you the last time I stalled, thank God. All those kinds of things, getting used to it. But in my spare time, when I'm not doing research on many Blizzard video games for all the other podcasts that I do, the thing I do for fun, because we barely do the show, is I read about car crap. So I was reading up on the Mustang, and so I came across so many different, whether forum posters, Reddit posters, articles, and whatnot, talking about how the S550 just has one of the worst damn clutch springs that just is the reason for its kind of inconsistent pressure throughout the whole travel of the clutch arm. And everything just kept saying, some people were just taking the spring out entirely, and I'm new to this, and so I got all these mixed responses on forums and Reddit saying, "Oh, half the people said it's fine, and half the other people said no, that could screw things up. You should definitely put a spring in there, guy." So,
yeah, I would feel like that would be kind of like those cartoons you see where it's like, the spring, oh, I don't need the spring, and then it comes back to haunt you later.
Exactly. So I kept coming up over and over again that Steeda makes a 35-pound spring that you can go and pick up for like $16. There is another version out there sold that's like 85, but it comes with the plastic bit that you can just reuse from the spring that you take out, as long as you don't break it. So I figured $16 was a small enough amount of money. I'll just risk it, see if I can not break that little plastic bit, and go from there. And got it out just fine. Popped it in.
Awesome.
And holy crap, it's such a better feel. It's so much easier to figure out like where it's engaging, and more importantly, it's like a consistent amount of pressure throughout the whole travel.
So now, is this this definitely seems like a quality of life type of change that you would do with the car? Is this something, and you would know much more than I would, is this something that seems to be very popular? Like, this is kind of one of the early things you do with Mustangs is, kind of these quality of life change like this?
Yeah, I mean, like when you're a total freaking noob like me and you're looking up like top 5 first mods for a Mustang, it was not coming up. But as soon as I started just researching like, S550 clutch, like this came up a ton of times. There's a lot of forum and Reddit posts out there about the clutch feel of the current generation Mustang and how it kind of leaves something to be desired. So yeah, it just kept coming up, and like I said, I figured it's freaking $16. I'll give it a shot, see if I like it. If I don't like it, put the old spring back in. But I ended up liking it, so I've just got an extra spring hanging out in the crap drawer on my workbench.
You will slowly start to collect all of those. I have a box in the garage, and it's like all my old parts, like tubes and hoses and cables and everything. And it's just, I will probably never use it, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah. Well, to give you an idea of how new I am to this, I have a spring, stock FRS lights, and aftermarket reverse light for the FRS that we haven't installed yet because we would have to move the damn exhaust out of the way to put it in.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
It's real tight in there. And eventually we'd like to put a new exhaust system on that. So
that would be awesome. They sound really good.
Until that day comes to pop in that new reverse light.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, it sounds like we both had a little bit going on then, at least with our cars.
Yeah. So I've been really enjoying it, even though I've been having to drive it with a light foot in all of this rain that we have been experiencing.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine, yeah.
Yeah. They get to take a friend out yesterday and was like, "Oh, hey, want to see exactly the point on the RPM meter, on the RPM tachometer where it loses traction?" Yep. All right. Cool.
Oh, man. There you go. Cool. Yep. Very good.
It's a good time. So last episode was very much news-oriented. Figured we'd go a little bit lighter on this, but there's an update on the WRX STI Type RA.
Yay!
You put it in here, man.
No, absolutely. So they did go ahead and come out. If you remember last episode, those of you guys that listened or following some of the news, there were these kind of glimpses of rumors as to what was coming out. We kind of talked about, what might be out there, what might be possibilities. Garrett and I talked about how it would be awesome if their BRZ had some type of STI package with more horsepower.
I'm sorry. I was thinking that we had recorded after the actual information came out. So never mind. It has been so long since we sat down to actually record one of these. Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. So now we know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So for those of you guys tuning into, we kind of had all the speculation. We talked about it, what we'd love to see, what would, kind of communities, what we're looking for. And we kind of talked a little bit about like what the RA is from the past. And
I personally was more interested in the BRZ. Turns out to be TS, which I am now no longer interested in.
It's so lame. So to catch up, there was an article, quite a few articles that came out that kind of debut what they were, and pretty much they're just, I want to say they're just a package, pretty much, is what I would call them, that is available for the BRZ and that is for the STI. And there's a few little perks here and there they do, but they're mostly cosmetic mods. There's a little mentions here and there of like performance changes, but they're very insignificant on both sides.
It's mostly handling modifications.
Yes.
Performance-wise, what is it? I think barely 10 more horsepower in
it's worthless. Yeah, I mean the STI. The STI is usually right around that 300 number, and now it's 310. Yeah. So it's like cool. I mean, they mentioned in the article for the STI they put in a cold air intake, they put in a high flow performance exhaust, which most likely is their SPT exhaust, which is your super performance team exhaust, and then they do a little retune on the ECU, and it's like, okay, great. But like that's what every other WRX STI owner does anyway, so it's not anything special. But so it's mostly cosmetic. I mean, there's some cool things here and there, but like I know the price tag is going to come out on this and just be astronomical, at least for the STI. And for the BRZ, I know it's just not going to be reasonable. Like the BRZ is the same way. They've made a few little adjustments here and there, makes it look cosmetically a lot cooler. You know, they're calling it the TS. But at the end of the day, it is just a BRZ with a cool, fun mods on it, a little bump up, and that's it. Like, it is not what everyone's been hoping for. So it was a lot of hype for nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure it was a lot of hype. I think folks like us were hyping it up a little bit more, and I was cautiously optimistic. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I hope it's a higher horsepower BRZ, but it's probably not, and it's not. It's just and Subaru was already offering handling packages for the BRZ. Yep. So it's just like, okay, now you just have this ridiculous wing and even better brakes, but the car doesn't struggle to stop as it is.
Yeah.
Yes, brakes are one of the most commonly upgraded things for people who actually track their BRZ or FRS or the 86. I'll just call it the 86. But
very good.
But for a daily damn driver, like it's fine. It's fine. Like bone stock. It's a really fun car. This is not.
I think this is very much to me just like a marketing campaign for them. They're only making like 500 of the STIs, so it's kind of making something that is limited in supply that may have high demand for those huge enthusiasts that have the funds to do it. So in that regard, I mean, putting costs aside, if I had the funds to do it, I'd be like, sure, absolutely, cool. I'd love to be able to say I have one of 500 STIs that are special edition type. You know, okay, cool. But other than that, I think it's just to gain some attention there for Subaru. So it is what it is. But I just wanted to add that in there so we could follow up on last week's or several weeks discussion on kind of where we were when we kind of put a decent amount of time into this, onto the rumors at least.
What would get you, sir, to consider going and picking up a new WRX?
Well, I'd have to be one of the Hyper Blues, which is like right now, you know, there's only so many of those made and they're fantastic. But I don't know. For me, I would pick one up in a heartbeat, but it just comes like everything about that car is fantastic and I would purchase it, but it's just the price tag for me. It's just, you know, that's it. That's all it is. I would take it. Absolutely. Garrett, come pay for it for me and I will take one for the team and I will accept that gift.
Tell you what, I will consider that and I'll buy myself an RS.
Yeah,
that's what I'll do.
There you go. There you go.
That is exactly what I will do. Well, last when we were planning on recording a few weeks ago, we figured we'd come and talk about some of the fun car events that we have been to. Relatively recently, it's been a couple of months for me already, but with Formula Drift making a stop in Canada, in like 2 days, I figured now'd be a decent time to talk about the couple of Formula Drift events that I have attended. Awesome. My first one being last year, and then we attended Formula Drift Orlando again this year because we just enjoyed it a lot, even though I could barely breathe by the end of the day.
You need like a gas mask just to know that your lungs were not being saturated with tire like fragments.
Yeah, it is not a pleasant smelling experience by any means, unless you're a hardcore that really enjoys the smell of burning rubber. But the first time we went, we did not bring any type of mouth and nose covering in any way, shape, or form. Luckily, it was the last year of Scion, and they had a booth, and they were giving out free handkerchiefs. So we grabbed a couple of those.
Okay. I've never been to one, to be honest with you. I mean, I think they're really cool. I'd love to go to one, but I just never have had that opportunity locally.
Yeah, my wife and I really had a good time with it. I mean, I think we talked about on the very first episode, the thing that kind of got both Katie and myself into cars were basically the Fast and the Furious franchise, and for me, the Need for Speed franchise of video games kind of growing up. So like going and getting to see like actual just ridiculous driving in person was a lot of fun. I haven't been, the only other race events I have been to our local stock car racing at a track that's about 20 minutes away from where we live. And that's very different and very there's no other word to use for it. It's very redneck. And I love it. It is a lot of fun. I jump at the chance to go on a Saturday night and watch the local races. But it is not this. It is not.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Super engine swapped 86s, pushing like 1,000 horsepower.
Jeez.
Which they're not.
That's awesome, though.
At that point, they're not even 86s anymore. But, yeah, I mean, one of the coolest thing was like we went out there and like the very first time we went, you don't think, kind of like when you and I started going to esports events for the first time, you don't think about the downtime.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of
absolutely
a lot of just room to breathe. And I remember the first time going like, oh crap, well, what are we gonna do now? And then we're just like walking around the track, and it's like, you can just walk into the pit. It's just open. In fact, they're like encouraging it. There's tents set up. There's vendors, and it's so weird. It reminded me of like going to like I don't know, like concert festivals in the summer growing up. So you have these very nice, very expensive RVs and semi trucks. And they all have like their own little pop out awning where they literally make their own damn garage just on the spot, and they're intermingling with the freaking vendors, and it's all just there. You like
it's all intertwined. There's no like separation at all. You could just walk up and look at someone's motor if you wanted to, see what they're doing and everything.
Exactly. And that was the thing that like I knew I was going to go and see like ridiculous sideways action in cars, and it was going to be loud and probably smell bad. That did not surprise me. What did surprise me was the fact that you could just go up and just taking like close-up damn photos of like under the hood of all of these cars. You can meet most of the drivers if they're not busy, and it was like that aspect of it was really cool. Katie's a big Frederick Osbo fan, and this last time we just bumped into him and got to see his freaking insane Corolla IM hatchback, which he's now drifting with, that they rear-wheel drive swapped and everything. The reason, by the way, Katie's such a fan, is he used to drift at Scion TC.
Oh,
the first car she ever bought with her own money. So, yeah.
It's interesting with those types of events, though, because you're all there with sharing the same passion, and there isn't that separation between like you as the enthusiast and fan and as the professional and like a car. Like that's the thing. Like I've noticed that at tracks I've gone to and stuff like that. Like people are all for just like walking up and checking out what you're doing and coming up and socializing, and you don't have that giant separation that you do with other types of events in your life where it's like, nope, it's caged off, you can't walk there. Even though you guys share the same thing, you can't just walk up and chat with each other. So that is the cool thing about the car scene, is that a lot of the people aren't put on these pedestals or even their cars and stuff like that, where there's a huge separation. And that's the fun thing, like especially for me, like going to drag strips and stuff like that. Like you can walk up to the random guy with random cars and just start talking about it, and you're all under the same roof in that interest and hobby. So I'm happy to hear that you got a chance to do that.
Yeah, that was the very cool part about it. And plus, we this last time we went, I believe he had trouble at the last event, but Osbo did end up winning with his as he called it, the grocery getter Corolla IM.
That's funny.
Which also used to be a Scion and was just brought over and rebadged. So
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a good. If I don't know how close they get to Pennsylvania, but
yeah, I would think maybe in Maryland or Virginia, maybe if we needed to. I'm not really sure. I'd have to look around.
If you ever get a chance, man, you should definitely freaking go.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, but what about you? What have you been up to?
Sure. So my event, that's kind of happened over the last several weeks is I got my car dynoed, and so all the time and the money and the blood, sweat, and tears put into all the work I put into the motor finally got to a point where I really needed to have it dyno tuned and a kind of a customized tune for the car. So there's a company very well known within the tuner scene in the East Coast in Maryland called IAG Performance. Very well known, and did a little research there, asked around everyone recommended them. They're the ones that build these like crazy $15,000 motors that you can buy if you really wanted to. They're all gold in color and everything like that. But they're also known for the kind of Subaru side and WRX side. So planned to go down there. Night before, went ahead, did an oil change and everything in the car, and kind of prepped the car, detailed the car. Wanted it to be clean, to be worked on by someone else, and drove down there. Had to be down there at 9 o'clock, and rolled up, and there's already 2 people in the parking lot with me. It's 2 other Subarus. The one guy actually drove down from Connecticut and slept in his car. So we left the night before, slept in his car in their parking lot, and was there for dyno tunes. So they accept 3 dyno tunes on Mondays, and I was one of them. I'd set it up ahead of time, and it's any time on Monday. So they offered, I went in, registered, got to check out the showroom. It was really, really cool. If you guys do follow me on YouTube, I did a whole YouTube video on it. You can kind of see the location. They actually have a Super WRX cut in half, long ways, and that is above their sign in the front of their building, which is really cool.
So it's not
to
a
see.
fake one. They just bought a junker and
they
cut
bought
it in half.
one, cut it in half, right down the middle, and then mounted it on top of their sign. Is very cool against their building. But their showroom's really cool. They have all different TVs with different videos going on WRXs and STIs, and they have one of their cars up on a lift in their showroom, which is cool to see. And they sell all different types of parts. They have their own parts. So anyways, I got there, and I got there early because they told me to come in, and they recommend for $100 they do a compression test on your system, which is awesome, before you go on the dyno to make sure your motor is sound. And that's the first time I've had a compression test since I had the motor rebuilt last year. So I was like, this thing better come back clean. And then second, they do a boost leak test, which is absolutely necessary when you're doing something with the dyno tuning. So great. They took the car back about 3 hours after I'd been there. Like, I sat there and waited and waited and waited, and they finally took the car back. And they said it would be an all-day thing, so I was like, okay, cool. They took the car back after 3 hours of sitting there, and then an hour later, they come to me and say, hey, you have a boost leak. And I'm like, okay, great, perfect. They say, hey, it was from my turbo inlet hose connected directly to the turbo. And I'm like, perfect, because I've been having issues with reaching max boost ever since I put all the parts in. So they found it, they addressed it. They're like, oh yeah, just do this. And I'm like, that took me like 2 hours to do, and you just slipped it on in like 30 seconds. Like, when you have the right tools and you do this every day, it's a huge difference. Yo, absolutely. So they corrected that. Then they come back to me like 15 minutes later. Like, we found another boost leak on your Y pipe underneath your turbo. Well, I replaced that sucker. That was on me. And I thought it's perfect, but I have no way to test it perfectly. Like, they hook up a machine, they pump it full of smoke, and then that seeps out of kind of where your boost leaks are, is how they do that. So they corrected that. So awesome. They fixed it. They took care of my boost leaks. 3 hours later, they're finally like, all right, we're ready to put you on the dyno. There's a guy ahead of you. He's finishing up. 2 hours later, the guy is still on the dyno. They go to the guy who is from Connecticut, who needed to leave to go to work the next morning, and go, well, we need to drain all your gas because you have bad gas. And it sounds funny, but
yeah, you get you're fine.
You get,
okay.
You get water in the gas. That's what they said. It's just a gas station that doesn't have quality gas. They're not able to get the proper combustion with the tuning. They got to drain this guy's gas entirely, put more gas in it. So just everything. I swear, this crap happens to me and only me every single time. My last time I got my car dynoed, I blew my clutch on the dyno, and I need to get that done while I was there. Like, it's just like. So I was there from like 6 a.m. the last time I got my car dynoed to midnight. Like, it's just nothing is easy. So long story short, my car, got my car on the dyno, which is cool. Set up some cameras in there. So if you check out the dyno video, you can see the different cameras and stuff. And the guy Cleo, who was that's the guy's name, he actually dyno tuned my last car 10 years ago at another company. So lo and behold, he was the same tuner here. So we knew each other, recognized each other. So he started to dyno tune the car, did a few pulls, and came out, and he's like, I can't get past 7 pounds of boost on your car. Like, it won't let me. Like, it's not holding boost. Lo and behold, another mistake on my part. So now we're on mistake 3 for the day. On one of the electronic boost controller, there's 3 boost hoses going into it. 2 of them were swapped on the wrong ones. So it was like it wasn't recirculating it properly. So they fixed that. Great. Now, I mean, this is just like a day from hell. Anyways, lo and behold, they finished it up. They started to do some dyno pulls. It worked out great, and everything worked out. It was fantastic to be able to watch it. The car did really well. It was sound, you know, and they had a whole checklist of like things they wanted to know about my driving style, how I wanted the car to be. So finished up. It made good numbers. Wheelbase horsepower is 248. Torque was 248. So it was like perfect. Blast, and it was at, what was it? It was originally at like, what was it, 19 point something? No. Yeah, 19, it was like 19.5 pounds of boost or something like that. Actually, hang on.
Wait, so you were getting, it wasn't going past 7, and now
it wasn't going past 7. Well, and that's all because of the tubes. Look, I got my dyno sheet. That's why I held it up.
Oh, look at you. Oh,
look,
this is awful for the audio listeners.
That's right. Video, there you go. So if you wanted to see, there you go. So as you can see, here's my power. Oh, other way. All the way up there. And then this is your boost line across the bottom. So it was 19.5 to start with originally. So ended up finishing up the day, headed home, made it home, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Awesome.
So how long have you been driving it where it hasn't been able to go past 7 PSI?
It was 2 weeks before I got it dyno tuned. So I just puppied it because I talked with IAG and they were like, you definitely need a boost or you definitely need a tune. Bring it in, we'll look it over, and then we'll get you the right map. They thought it was because all the modifications I had just were not compatible with my current tune. Lo and behold, it was 2 boost leaks causing me to not be able to get that, and the fact of the electronic boost controller, those hoses being swapped. So anyways, car was great, but I puppied it on the way home. I didn't really jump on it too much. And the next day, I was like, all right, cool. I'm on my way to work. It's open highway. Let's go ahead and have some fun. So I started doing some fourth gear pulls, 5th gear pulls, and this thing was not pulling at 17 pounds of boost or 19 pounds of boost. It was pulling at 22 pounds of boost. Keep in mind, my car is a stock turbo, stock injectors, and a stock intercooler. And this thing is hauling ass, but when I'm at the top of my RPM curve, it's hesitating. So it's like, and then it cuts out for a quick second, and then it kicks back in again. Then it cuts out and kicks back in. So my first thought was the fact that the injectors were being overmaxed and it was cutting out fuel. And then it was kicking back in and cutting out fuel, kicking back in. So I emailed IAG, talked back and forth, talked with the tuner, and he's like, what MAT version are you running? Which was for on my tuner, the Cobb Access port. And I'm like, oh, I'm running 6. It says, Patrick Jester, yada, 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 version 6. And he's like, oh, we finished on version 7. It must have not have got fully flashed onto there. So, they tuned it, but they didn't do a full retune onto it. So, as soon they sent that to me, and it was like night and day. Granted, my boost was back down to actually a little bit better point. It actually ended up at 17.6 pounds of boost. But it was fine. It was less boost, but it was so much more consistent. So in 4th and 5th gear at like 3,000 RPM, the thing just pulls like a beast. So it's awesome. So that is my long-winded dyno story from a few weeks ago.
Oh, that is just awesome, man. As someone who has never done that, I've only seen cars dynoed a few times.
Yep.
And those are at 86 meetups, and those are always pretty funny numbers.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. It's so misleading for people because they'll go, oh, well, your wheel horsepower, that's terrible. That's not even where the stock one is. And it's like, no. Like, you have to remember, it's completely different, like, in regards to percentages and stuff like that when it comes down to what a manufacturer advertises as horsepower versus what you actually get at the wheels, what is actually pushing your car.
Right. That was one of the things I learned very early on, and then felt like a noob. It's like, well, no, manufacturers, they advertise brake horsepower, not wheel horsepower.
Yep. So so that's my dyno story. They're always super long and always disastrous, but worked out well.
Again, as someone with no real knowledge of this type of thing, I would think them taking an obscene amount of time with the person in front of you would be a good sign. It's like, okay, they're really looking over this with a fine-tooth comb.
I am not unhappy in any way with the quality of work they did. It's just the amount of time it took. Like, but they told me I'd be there all day, and then that's why I took off work, and I was there all day. But they found 3 issues with my work that I did, and they went ahead and actually like made the car a beast. So I can't complain in any way. The timing, yes, but they told me ahead of time, like, hey, it's going to take all day, and they were right. It took all day. So yeah.
Oh, that's rad, man. So when should I go see what the heck the Mustang is actually doing?
Well, for you, you're not going to have to go and dyno tune it until you have the modifications to support that, because it's really silly to do. Like, you could go do it now for fun. If you just wanted to go and say, I want to see what my car makes, go ahead, go do that. That's fine. As soon as you say, hey, I want a custom tune, the price goes up. And it's kind of pointless to do it then, because it's like, what do you have on your car that qualifies it to need to have a custom tune? I know some people that will take a stock like car and just go get it custom tuned, because it is very conservative the way the manufacturer tunes the car, and it just opens it up. But you might as well add some performance parts to it so that you get more out of that tune. So I always recommend people to wait until they have a decent amount into the car that warrants either, one, you need to do it because the car is not going to run right and is dangerous for the car, or two, hey, I put enough money into the car with performance parts, let's go ahead and open it up and see what it makes.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to emails then, because there are quite a few. Not even sure we'll get through them all, but you can send your emails to mcarstuff@gmail.com. That's mcarstuff@gmail.com. We've got an email update from Tom, who was he was looking at that Blount 16G Turbo WRX that we talked about on our second episode.
Yeah.
So it looks like he went and test drove that car. All right, Tom, what do you have to say? He writes, what up, boys? Went and looked at that car on Tuesday. Turns out it was not in as good of condition as the pictures showed. The paint had a lot of imperfections, and I really wasn't into that. If I'm going to pay that kind of money for a car, it's going to look as good as it runs. And unfortunately, this car didn't run too well either. It started fine and seemed to run great at first, but when we came up to stop signs, it would stall almost as if it wasn't getting enough fuel when the computer put it on its idle map. So that was a big red flag for me. But boy, did that car pull. It did have 145,000 miles on it, so you guys were right with your guess. Super expensive. They're always going to be expensive, and if they're not expensive, they're probably not worth buying. I looked for a long time. Anyway, Tom continues, I just got done listening to the show, and I believe you when you say unmodified WRXs are rare unicorns. I found one yesterday, a 2012, at a local dealership. I went there today and had found out that it was sold hours before I got there. Yep.
It sounds like your story. When you and I were talking, you'd be like, Patrick, look at this car. It's awesome. I'm going to go check it out. And then you call me like, nope, it's gone. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. That one STI hung around for like 3 weeks, but I wasn't going to spend that money on an STI.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he said that particular WRX had 24,000 miles on it. Looked brand new, but it's gone now. But yeah, any insight on a vehicle for me? I would love to have a turbo car. I really like the WRX because it is all-wheel drive. If I remember, he said he lived in Michigan last episode.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stay around $10,000 plus or minus a few thousand. I would not minus a few thousand, especially if you're looking in the Subaru area. I currently drive a 2002 Ford Focus ZX3. Hell yeah, man. We're car brothers.
Look at you.
I had a 2002 ZX5. I loved that car. I even played around with the thought of buying a turbo kit for it. There are a few manufacturers out there that make a complete setup for a couple grand, but I don't think that would be wise as the car already has 174,000 miles on it. Yeah, that and the ST exists, man, and they're cheap. Go buy an ST. Thanks again for all the advice. Look forward to hearing you guys in 2 weeks. So I made some notes in here, because I'm still coming pretty fresh off the car hunt. And the moment I started looking at STIs, because the damn WRXs were already so far up there, that's when I was like, nope, screw it, getting a GT. I wasn't one. If I'm going to spend that money, I'm getting 8 cylinders.
Yep.
If you're at the $10,000 field, it's going to be hard to find forced induction with low miles. It just does not compute, and all-wheel drive is going to make that, like, your pool of cars just shrink up to a tiny little, like a tiny puddle. It is, all-wheel drive adds a lot of money.
That's the big one there. I mean, I think as you mentioned there, he wants a lot. He wants a car with a turbo. He wants a car that's all-wheel drive. He wants a car with low mileage. And, all those wants are great, but for the price tag you're looking at, it's just not feasible. So as Garrett kind of said, there's other items out there that kind of drop some of those requirements, like drop all-wheel drive. Your options open up. Increasing your mileage, your options open up. So I would be very weary of purchasing any turbocharged vehicle above 100,000. So keep that in mind as you start looking, only because of just where the engine sits, what kind of compression you're getting, how good is the turbo, is the turbo wheel going to last you? So I think that bump here or there, I would say save your money, wait another 6 months, and see if you can get closer to that 15,000. Then your opportunity is open. If you can get closer to that 18,000, now we're talking.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And when it comes to, and I don't know what the used car market looks like in Michigan for Subarus, but it sounds like, from what Tom's writing in, it sounds very similar to my when I was looking at them here in Florida. Even at 15,000, it's going to be hard to find one you're really going to want, something that's hopefully sub 75,000 miles. But it's still going to be tough. So it's like I always, I obviously biased. I think our biases are already pretty much out there on this show. I'm a big Ford fan. So I would say drop power to the two back wheels and look at your Focuses. Even maybe consider a Fiesta. I don't know how opposed you might be to one of the smallest damn cars you can buy from Ford. But man, like dollar to fun, I don't think you could beat it with a Fiesta ST. Like, it's ridiculous. They're obscenely fun cars. You can get them brand new for like $15,000 if you shop around.
Yeah, and I think it's a great option, to be honest with you. And that worked out for you. Like, as soon as you started to look outside the WRX, you're like, oh, look at all these avenues that are available. Look what other cars I can get. You dropped the all-wheel drive, and it was like, whoa, there's other turbo cars I can get. The ST was one that you were looking at in your price range. So I think the same applies for him. So Tom, I think what would be best is just keep us updated on what you end up going with, or if you wait. But I think from my recommendation would be wait, save more money, and get the car you want versus settling for the car that you kind of don't want. If you don't have to buy a car this second, you're not being forced in like, hey, I need to get a car, here's why. Save your money longer and buy the car you want, because you'll be much happier in the end. Yeah.
That being said, if you want, like, I don't know, I would call this like my out of left field suggestion. Add Mazda Speed 3s into your search, into your local search. When one pops up, go and test drive it, because those have been around. They don't even make them anymore. There's not a current generation of Mazda Speed 3, but you can find them slightly older than STs, and used Focus STs are already getting very affordable. I've seen them in like the $13,000 range with modest amounts of miles on them. But you can find even better deals on Mazda Speed 3s. Which are turbocharged. And while I personally have never driven one, when I was talking on my solo show, The Angry Nerd, before we even started this show, about how I was car shopping and looking at Focus STs, I got like 7 damn emails like immediately about Mazda Speed 3s. Like, dude, just look at this. They're even cheaper and they're fun as hell. And it's a freaking Mazda, manual gearbox, which again, never driven a Mazda in my life, but apparently they're heavenly.
No, it's a good recommendation. I like it. Front wheel drive, turbo. It's a good option.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all wheel drive and the Subaru badge that is going to kill you.
Yep.
In the price.
Yep. Absolutely. So moving on to another email we got here. Short one, but good. This one's from Darren. It says, "Hi, Garrett and Patrick. Just listened to the first 2 shows today, and I had a thought regarding Garrett's gearbox woes.
Oh, I'm not having these anymore. It's fine."
Listening to you guys from the UK, where nearly everyone learns to drive in a manual, this talk about struggling to learn to drive with a proper gearbox is quite amusing. That said, if you're struggling with the shift into second because the car has too much torque, which is a great example of your car, and also struggling to keep the wheels from spinning in first, then why not try pulling away in second when you are not in a rush? Sounds like the car has plenty enough torque to achieve this, and it does away with the switch from first into second. Loving the new show, especially noting the differences in car habits between UK and US. So thank you, Darren, for the email. It's great to hear people from across the pond that are listening to the show. So very, very exciting. I think this is a great recommendation. Garrett absolutely can do this, or anyone else struggling with it that has that type of power. The only difference is he's going to have to be in a higher RPM when he is releasing off the clutch in order to support, that he is in second. But I think it's a great recommendation. I don't know, Garrett, if you've actually done that yet or not.
I have. I don't like how much gas I have to give it. I've gotten way better just starting out in first and just shifting in the second. And I mean, at this point, especially if I'm just like going to the corner, grocery store for like coffee or something, it's like, well, I'm not driving much, but I still want to shift a lot because it's the whole point of driving this damn car. So I'm starting out in first. I absolutely can. It was one of the first things I tried because I remember when one of my friends got her first like manual WRX. She's like, yeah, I just started out in second. Just make life easier on me. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. And I stalled the first couple times trying it. I'm like, oh no, gotta give it more. And it's just easier in first. So.
Well, it's funny because a few weeks ago when we first got this email, and then I actually took one of our company cars out. I had to go pick something up, which was a Mustang GT. I think it was the same year yours was, as the black one, the 2015. And I was looking for that shift into second issue, and I like literally called Garrett up. I was like, I feel it. Like, I know what you're talking about. Like, I drive stick every day, all day long. It has nothing to do with the fact of like how good you are and how long you've been doing it. It is literally the car, and with the torque ratio, it's just like first you're good, you go into second, and you still get a rock of the entire car when you get into it.
Yeah, part of it too is like, again, this is my first manual car, so like I'm still figuring out the nuances and what's different about that manual versus another manual. I had the chance to take my dad recently got a God, what year is it? I think it's a early 2000s Porsche 911.
Oh, nice.
Took that out, and it seems like the clutch, especially the engage point on my Mustang, it just wants to grab more. It's like, and you notice that issue in second as well. So like if you're not ready for it, it'll almost take faster than you expected it to, and also cause a bit of a herk or a jerk as it will.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, Darren, I'm glad you're finding amusement in my inability to drive a standard transmission. But yeah, no, it's getting a lot better.
Good.
I look forward to it. Katie and I 2 weekends ago. It's 7 o'clock on a Saturday after we just finished doing a ton of yard work. And we're just like, I want German food. You want to drive an hour north for our favorite German restaurant? Yeah, sure, why not? So we spent 2 hours on the road at the drop of a hat to go get our favorite German food. A, because I love that restaurant, and B, I really wanted to just go for a drive. So,
but see, that is when you know you have the right car. That is when you know you do, because that is great, because for you too, like, your car isn't something you drive. Like for me, like I drive my car to and from work every day. So it's like 40 minutes to work, 40 minutes back. So I have that amount of time in the car. So it's not like special as much anymore. But for you, you're not going out every day in it. You're not driving these long commutes. So it's like you have an opportunity. You're like, hey, you want to go for a ride? It's like, sure, why not? So that's awesome.
And it's not helpful either, by the way, because I totally talked myself into buying the car, being like, I'll just go to Starbucks less. I'll eat out less. But now I have it. I want to go out more. So my coffee bill has stayed the same. But
awesome.
We got another email from James, who writes in and says, Dear fellow auto enthusiasts, about 2 months ago, I got my first Subaru after wanting one for nearly 20 years. To add some perspective, I am 33 years old. So you're 12. I guess, yeah, that's old enough to start being concerned
thinking about it. Yeah.
Man,
but then he would have been interested in like the RS, the 2.5, kind of the 90s of the Subaru. So very cool to hear that, that's where he fell in love with it.
Yeah, when I was really, like in my teen years, I was not interested in cars at all. I wasn't really I got my Focus, and I was like, oh, I really like this car. I started paying a little more attention. Anyway, he said, so add from the perspective, I'm 33 years old and fell in love watching them at the World Rally Championship on the Speed Channel. My Outback is bone stock, but I want to start modding it. However, it is my daily driver, so I have to be careful of the mods I pick and what order I do them in due to budget as well. Oh, man. Patrick is your guy to talk to, because he takes his car apart and puts it back together the same night because he got to drive the next day.
Yep.
Yeah, he said, the main thing I hope to gain from modding is unlocking that sweet Subaru rumble. I know unequal length headers are going to be the key, but I don't know at which point in the modding process I should add them. The performance mods I plan on getting would be cold air intake, either cat delete or high flow cat, full exhaust system, coilovers, upgraded brakes and rotors, and possibly a short shift kit. Also plan on modding the body with a scooped hood, different headlights, and paint job when it's all said and done. So I guess my question is, when do I add the headers, and do you have any suggestions on a good place to get them? And then there's part 2 of my question. Goodness gracious, we need to put a length limit on these things.
I know.
Yeah.
Jesus.
All right. You know what? Let's cut it there. I'll come back to it after we address the first half of this email.
All right. So looking this over, he talks about the Subaru Rumble, and that's what like every Subaru enthusiast, even tuners, anybody really in the car scene, that is a respectable sound from a car. It is not, even though it is kind of in that kind of racer type of scene area, it's still a very distinct sound. And you don't need to go the length to get headers for that at all. What I recommend, if you're on a budget, is go with catback. Catback exhaust then. So, everything from there forward is fine. You're good. Just go with straight catback exhaust. You'll get the rumble you're looking for. I would look around. There's a lot of videos out there of examples. I personally am an NVIDIA fan. I go with NVIDIA, same as like the graphics card for those of you guys that are nerds, but we'll spell it a little differently. It's INV. And it's a great sound. I'm going to pimp it again here if I need to. On my YouTube channel, you can listen to my car with and without a resonator in it. So take a look. You can hear the sound of it. I currently have the G200. It's a titanium exhaust with a burnt tip end, and I love it. So that will give you your Subaru kind of rumble, but doesn't have to be NVIDIA. There's all different brands out there. Even Subaru makes one. Their aftermarket brand is called SPT, and even your Subaru dealerships will install them for you and back the install on the parts if you're interested. On the other end of that, you went with a slew of parts, which I think is awesome, but also makes me want to recommend to you to rethink it. And what I mean by that is, what are you trying to accomplish with your car? It's a Subaru, awesome, good. Subaru Power, awesome, I'm happy to hear that. But it's an Outback. So you're adding performance mods to it. What are we trying to accomplish is my question for you. Are we trying to, what is your end goal? Is really, you want the sound, because you got all different things here you recommended. Your performance stuff really was around cold air intake. That'll give you kind of more of a whoosh sound as you're accelerating, but you're not really going to get a lot of horsepower out of it at all. You may see gains of like 2 horsepower, to be honest with you. And then you do a bunch of things regarding suspension, which is cool, brakes and rotors, which is a lot of fun, and a short shift knob. Okay, makes sense, cool. These are all innocent modifications that won't get you into situations like me where it's midnight and my motor is on my garage floor and I'm like, I have to go to work at 6 a.m., situations. But if you're looking for places, you're all over the place right now. I can tell you're talking about paint jobs, headlights. What I did, and I recommend for anyone in your situation is, and you're budgeting too, so you have to budget for these, put together a list from start to finish of what you're looking to do with where you're purchasing it from, how much it's going to cost you, and work through one at a time and just go through it. There are so many outlets out there. There's so many brands you can go with. And I can, shoot us back an email. I can recommend a whole slew of them. I can help you find parts if you're interested. I've put together 3 Subarus, modified them, so I'm very, very knowledgeable there. But good places to start would be check out the Subaru subreddit /r/Subaru. Take a look. There's tons of people on there with good recommendations. So that's what I would do to answer that whole first part of that email.
I agree. I think he's kind of all over there. But let's continue with how all over he is. Part 2. He wants to know where he can find a scooped hood. I said he's been calling all the junkyards around, and no one has an Outback Sport, period, let alone one with the hood I want. No surprise there. I didn't know Outback Sport was a thing. I think my hood can be taken from non-Outback Sports, but I don't know which cars have the same hood dimensions. I don't want to pay for a new hood if I can help it. By the way, my car has 125,000 miles on it. It's been well maintained. I'm the second owner. The previous owner has all the service records.
Okay, stop. You have 125,000 miles on your car. Red flag right there. Because here's my concern for you. You want to put modification parts on the car to stress the motor even more. It has 125,000 miles on it. Have you rebuilt your boxer engine yet? My guess is no. Plan for some time in the next 75,000 miles that you will need to rebuild your motor. Is it going to be worth it to sink $5,000 to $6,000 into your motor for this vehicle is my question for you. So these are all things that you should be asking. Putting that entirely aside with your hood scoop question, look into actually Impreza, WRX hoods and hood scoop and the swap and actually replace the entire hood. Look at swapping your entire hood because there are tons of WRXs in junkyards. Check the dimensions, but I know there's a lot of crossover with the different years and models. So see what you can do. I mean, for me, like I can literally go from a 2002 Subaru up to a 2005 Subaru WRX with the different hoods. So take a look there. That's a good avenue to go. There's all different hood scoops out there too. Take a look to see if the STI one, the hood scoop, is compatible with it. There's lots of aftermarket manufacturers where you can get it just bare bone, no paint, and then have it painted. So that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing on the Subaru hood hunt, especially for an Outback. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good luck to you. Yeah, I mean that's again as the resident newbie here. That's something I hear over and over again. It's like before you start modding your car, figure out what exactly it is you want to do. Mm-hmm. For me, I think my end goal is eventually taking it out to a Sebring, which is our the road course here in Florida. Okay. It's about a 3-hour drive for me, but you can join NASA and they have track days multiple times a year out there. So
that's awesome. I'm just like, I can't wait. I can't wait for you.
I want to do that in the worst way, and I think I might want to do it before I do anything to the car. Just take it out there and just see how it goes on its own.
Exactly. Yeah, because as soon as you do that, then you're going to go, okay, where were my limitations and how can I correct them? Suspension, tires, everything.
Yeah, with one caveat. I already know I need to get wider freaking wheels and get rid of the horrible all-season tires that 2015 Mustang shipped with.
You don't need those. You're in Florida.
No, I don't. And I also need 8.5 inches wide of rubber on the road is not cutting it. It's not doing it. It's not doing it, Patrick. But yeah, that's where I think. So I would assume down the road I'll be going more for handling upgrades. Yeah,
I think that's a good call. Absolutely.
So until someone writes,
I might know a place where you can buy some.
I hear you do. I hear you do. Yeah. Let me know if they ever need another Mustang to tinker on because I know they don't have a lot full of them already.
Nope, not at all.
Not at all. I'll start driving tonight.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. I'm glad we made this happen. Had a good time as always chatting cars with you, Patrick. Had a good time reading a slew of Subaru emails. Where are my Ford boys at? Come on, right in Mcarstuff.
Come on, Ford fangirls. Come on now. Where are you at?
Gmail.com. I'll settle for some Scion fanboys. Where's my FRS? Or even if you got to keep it in the Subaru family with BRZ. Where you at?
Yeah, there you go.
Email is mcarstuff@gmail.com. You can find this and many other video game themed podcasts over at amove.tv. But Patrick, where can folks find your work?
Yeah, sure. So Twitter, Instagram, look me up. It's Octane Pro, SCII. And then on YouTube, you can hit me up. Just look for it's youtube.com/dailydrivenwrx. You'll find all my videos out there, install videos, and my dyno days over there that I mentioned earlier. So go check that out. What about you, Garrett?
You can find me on Twitter at GarrettArt, 2 R's, 2 T's, and my name. Hope you know how to spell art. And that's it. Already mentioned amove.tv, and you won't find me doing much of anything because I'm heading to the Keys next week, which means no driving.
Rough life.
Because Key West is like, I believe, 2 miles by 4 miles. There's no point in driving. You don't need to. Don't worry about it. It's all boats down there. So we're going to come back, and I'm going to talk about some sweet booze cruise I took or something. Be like, let me tell you about this catamaran that I don't understand how it works. There's wind,
very cool,
and a sail, and we move. So, but
I like it.
Anyways, yeah, we'll do our best to get back on our once every 2 week schedule, and see you next time. Until then, have a great one, everyone.
Take care.